Assistant City Manager Vaughn Sullivan come forward and offer the invocation. Also, the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Byrne. Please stand.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beauty of this day. Father, we just ask your protection during these storms that are upon us, Lord, and those who are out on the streets patrolling and doing the things they have to do tonight. Keep them safe, Lord. Father, we just thank you so much for this occasion and these men and women and their service to this community. Bless them in their decisions that they have before them, Father, with your discernment and your wisdom. Thank you for this great nation, and thank you for the freedom we have here in this great land, and those that are willing to protect it and guard it. Those who are all over the world tonight, giving of their lives and their time. Keep them safe and give them peace and comfort, Lord. We thank you so much for Jesus, the blood that was shed on our behalf on the cross. We ask all these favors in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Please follow. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we move into community-related announcements. Anyone on the Horseshoe have anything to offer?
I'd like to, and I hope you can hear me, this mask makes things difficult. So, a huge shout out to all the residents that have massively supported the hospital. I talked to Clay Franklin the other day, he's the CEO of the hospital. He said when they had the lights flashing and the horns honking, the number of citizens who showed up was way more than he would have ever even thought possible. And that while most of the staff that was in there couldn't see it because they were attending to patients, he said it was one of the single most uplifting things and morale boosting things that he's ever seen in a hospital. He said he's never seen a community rally around a hospital before. Some good news is we don't have a single patient as of last night in the hospital that has COVID. We don't have any what they call persons under investigation for the first time in a month. We now have, I say we, the hospital now has a rapid test that takes 45 minutes, whereas most places are taking 12 hours and longer to get the results, which is resulting in a whole lot less time in a hospital and a whole lot less use of personal protective equipment. He also said one of the things that really surprised him was how few actual people tested positive in Midwest City. Statistically, it should have been a whole lot more. They had 191 tests performed and only 7 were positive. Out of those, 4 are still pending results, but they are not in the hospital. They were sent home. So it's my way of saying our citizens have done a wonderful job. Our staff has done a wonderful job, and everybody has come together from the hospital to everybody. One of the things I know many people are worried about is we're opening the state up slowly. One of the numbers that I got, which I'm a numbers guy, so it means something to me. Even if COVID surged by 60%, we're still under the peak of where the hospitals thought they were going to be. We have enough bed spaces in this entire state that as long as we're smart and we do the right things, we have the medical capacity there. And all of that is hugely positive.
Well, thanks, Councilman Reed. Appreciate that.
Can I follow up with that, Mayor?
You go ahead.
So as we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic in our community, for the citizens, you can go to the Midwest City's current ordinances related to COVID-19 on the front page of our website at midwestcityok.org and click on Stay Connected, and it'll give you the latest updates on what our current ordinances are as it relates to your business and our community. A couple other things that's related. We are planning on opening the community pool, our swimming pool, on June 1st. It will be under various rules that'll be following the FDA FDA, I'm saying that right? CDC, wrong state, federal agency. I should know that. CDC guidelines as it relates to the swimming pools, but if, right now, we're gonna try to open June 1st. That's assuming we can get proper staffing. There's issues with the guards not having their licenses updated, but the Red Cross is going to push those out, or the state is, for 90 days. So if you expire, your license expires, your lifeguard license, it's still going to be good for 90 days. So that's one community announcement. Another one is I am pleased to announce that we have started changing some of our operations back with the governor's order as it relates to public works. So we are going to change starting next week some of our schedules. We're still going to separate our employees by start times, but we're not going to be working the really long hours and working weekends. And by doing this, we are going to restart the bulk waste collection program. And we're going to start that early by doing this. And I hope, we've had a lot of complaints about that, but it was based on the staffing that we had, and had to socially distance our employees where they couldn't ride in the same vehicles together. So with some of these changes, we're going to get back to the bulk pickup, and we're going to go Monday, May 11th in Zone 7. So we're not waiting to start over in 1. We're going to pick up where we should be at this time. And so that is Zone 7, May 11th, and that's basically Sooner to Douglas and Northeast 10th to Northeast 23rd. So Claudia will be getting the word out to the citizens, so they'll have some opportunity to get there.
If I can just follow up on that.
Sure.
So I have a lot of complaints happening in my ward about bulk trash being out at the curb. Apparently a lot of people missed the announcement that bulk trash wasn't running this quarter. So I know that code enforcement is going to be starting up again
Yeah, they're
with
going to
regard to.
resume starting next week.
So for the bulk trash, at this point, it's just up to the citizens to call and schedule a special pickup, correct?
Right, the transfer station's not open, it's broke down, so we couldn't open it. But yes, they can get the $55 pickup.
Or if they want to take it to the landfill, there's a specially negotiated rate
Right.
at the,
Do you know what that rate is, Vaughn? Where it's Vaughn? There it is. Is it $50?
25 for pickup, 50 for the trailer.
I believe that's right, Councilman. And you do need to take your water bill to prove your residency of City, Middle City to get those prices, because they are significantly discounted.
So $25 for pickup, and the trailers.
50, I
50.
think, yeah.
so if you wouldn't mind, if you could ask Claudia, I didn't see her when I walked in, but
I
I
think
think she's watching from her office.
I understand, sorry. And I could barely see over this thing, sorry.
We'll push that out with
if you
this
could-
announcement.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, no
thank you for
problem.
reminding us of that. Yes, we will.
And Councilwoman Needs, if you would, if you have constituents that still have that out by the curb that can't get it, please give me the information and we can get our community partners to go out there and get it picked up.
Because there's several that are really, I'm sorry, there are several that are really voluminous. I mean, full width of the front yard, piled probably 5 feet high. So there's a lot of chatter going on about it right now. So I'll see what I can do to get
Well,
addresses together.
If in fact you've got 1 or 2 or 3 that can't get it done, let me know and we'll make sure our community partners get out.
I appreciate that.
Also, Mayor and Councilperson Needs, if we know those addresses, or if code is aware of those addresses, they may already be in some sort of a situation where they're trying to get it picked up. It sounds like those would be special pickups anyway. If they're that grandiose,
If
they're
they're that
probably
big, yeah,
subject to
probably.
charges anyway. Okay.
But if somebody
not-
falls through the crack, let me know.
We've got groups that can help if they're not
I
capable.
appreciate that. from-
Tim, did you have anything else?
Yes, so one other thing, just real quick on City Hall. Our goal is to open City Hall on Monday. We are currently building some cough guards for our customer service area, downstairs and upstairs in community development. Once we get that accomplished, we're gonna open City Hall back up. We are gonna ask people to please wear a mask when you come into City Hall for this 30-day period until we get to the Tier 3 limitations. And same for the court. We're gonna open the court next week. It'll be socially distanced and only one person, not the whole family, will be able to go into the courtroom, but we are asking that people wear masks as well.
Can I add something to what you said, Tim?
Sure.
You mentioned the city's website for the information, and
Yes.
I want to stress to the citizens, the next 30 or 60 or 90 days, there are going to be a ton of changes.
Yeah.
There are changes that could happen tomorrow that we don't know tonight. Facebook, neighborhood app, and all this other social media stuff is nowhere near the gospel. So please, please, please go to the Midwest City website if you want accurate information, because just because it's on Facebook doesn't mean it's accurate. And it causes a lot of headaches for a lot of people. So we have a tremendous community, or a tremendous person that puts our information out. She's on top of it daily. And I have complete faith in the fact that if something's gonna change tomorrow morning, it'll be on the city's website within a matter of minutes. So please go to that. Do not rely on Facebook or any of this neighborhood apps, because not everything on there is accurate.
Last announcement I have is our customer service drive-through that operates prior to City Hall opening and then after it closes. We hardly have anyone coming through, its average is about 4 a day, and it requires additional personnel to handle that early morning staffing. And so we are going to go from 8 to 5 with regular hours for the drive-through, just to let everyone know. And that's gonna start May 4th. Sarah, you have anything else on that? Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you all.
I have a couple, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes,
Just
ma'am,
really
go
quickly.
ahead.
First off, I just want to take a moment to recognize and sort of extend condolences almost to our seniors in high school who are missing so much of their senior year right now, and to let them know that they're in our thoughts and that we are working to try to do something to recognize them with the blessing of the school districts for our residents from Midwest City, and that we recognize that this is a difficult time for them and for their families. And so I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to extend thank yous to a few businesses, and I'm sure I'm gonna miss some, but some of the notable things that I noticed is via social media, several businesses have reached out to embrace our first responders, like Del Rancho on Northeast 10th gave away free food to local responders. Several of the local law firms have sponsored food from restaurants for first responders. I know Chick-fil-A provided food to city staff, and with all that the city staff is dealing with, I'm sure that that was a blessing to them as well.
Will be out tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
Napoleon's.
Oh,
the Rotary.
wonderful. And the other one that I wanted to mention is the drum room took it upon themselves to donate a meal to each and every one of the residents of the Autumn House in both buildings, and had those delivered in series to make sure everybody got a hot meal. And those folks that are currently on quarantine with no visitors, it was a blessing for them. So I just wanted to thank those businesses for being great community partners.
Well, thank you. Well, I'll chime in here. First off, I'm extremely proud of the city of Midwest City and how we've handled this. I want to thank each one of you on the council for taking a pragmatic and steadfast approach to the way we've done things. I know it wasn't pleasing for some, but it looks like we've done the right thing. It's going to be from an economic standpoint, we don't know what the damage is going to be done. But I can assure you, on having been up here quite a bit, the staff has been connected, and working through those issues, and with the primary concern of keeping everybody employed. And that's comforting. It's going to be a while before we feel the full effects of pulling the plug on our economy for 52 days. And so I too urge all the citizens and everybody, once we get things rolling Friday, that you shop Midwest City and keep our tax dollars here. It's more important now than it ever has been in order to keep our city viable and to maintain the services that you're used to getting. But again, I want to extend my thanks not only to the council but the staff and their pragmatic approach to this. There has not been one cross word over the approach that we've taken. We've looked at every issue and weighed it out, and we weighed it out with the data that was presented to us. And so thank you guys for the hard work you've done. It's going to pay off in the long run, I believe. Is there any other announcements or anything before we get into the agenda? Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of council or members of the audience wishing to address an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We have two discussion items this evening, and you want to go ahead and handle those?
Sure, discussion and first discussion item one, discussion consideration of nominating Midwest City Manager Tim Lyon to the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group 2020 election of 3 trustees.
I guess, does he want to do it?
Yes.
This is an important position, and it gives us a voice in a very large organization in the state.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Our second discussion item?
Second discussion item is the addendum, discussion and consideration of an ordinance amending the Midwest City Municipal Code, Chapter 11, City Emergency Management, Section 11-3, Emergency Operating Hours and Procedures for Commercial Enterprises, providing for repealer, severability, and declaring of an emergency.
You have the ordinance in front of you. There has been a couple of changes, but almost verbatim it follows the governor's guidelines and the guidelines that were set forth by the Center for Disease Control. With that being said, is there any discussion?
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's important in this ordinance that it states that, like I said a little bit ago, things are going to change. They could change tomorrow morning. They could change tonight. We don't have to meet every time there's a change. This ordinance is going to give the city manager the ability to make changes, the necessary changes that need to be done basically on the fly, because like I said, things are going to change. We don't know how this is going to be. Hopefully it continues the way it does, but there's a possibility it couldn't. There are 3 items or 3 times on this ordinance since it was posted that there's an addendum that's come out, or a second. And it's on the original one. It involves the gloves, and those are going to be removed.
Right.
The requirement for the gloves, it'll be on line 24, line 28, and line 31. But it does, they're not gonna, is that correct, Tim? We're
Yes.
removing that requirement.
Yes, Councilman Byrne, that's correct. We're removing the gloves requirement, but we're leaving the mask. The mask is recommended by the governor's order, but it does not require it. And we had multiple members of the council contact me and ask that we create an ordinance where we require the masks for people in the salons and the barber shops and spas, and also the restaurants, that for the employees that work in those restaurants.
And-
And at some point, this ordinance gives you the ability to stop that requirement.
Right, and as the governor makes changes, we can amend by resolution.
And that's why it's extremely important that people pay attention to the Midwest City website for the information and not listen or rumors on social media. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And please do not construe this as a requirement to wear a mask anytime you leave your house. This only addresses people who are working in restaurants and close service industry that when they're in contact with a person or a customer, that they wear a mask. So this is not an order to everybody wear a mask on the outside when you're outside. So with that being said, is there
I
any
have a
further
question.
discussion? Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
So I know that this ordinance is intended to incorporate by reference the governor's Open Up and Recover Safely plan. But I do remember there being a provision in there about, particularly for restaurant workers, to have their temperatures taken, like at the start of their shift. But that isn't enumerated here unless I missed it.
It's not in there. We can add it, though, if you want to.
Well, and I don't know, Susan, that you would need to add what's already in the plan, because in section 2, it talks about how we are implementing the governor's Open Up and Recover Safety Plan, which the governor's order implemented.
I'm sorry.
No, so those items that are in his plan that are required, we don't have to put those in our ordinance. But what his Open Up and Recover Safety Plan indicated in regards to, so for instance, with the temperature, it has in there that workers who have symptoms should not return to work until they're free, and that they, well, and you're correct, because if unable to take temperatures on site at start of shift. So in his recommendations that are posted on the Department of Commerce for restaurants, they already have in there the temperature requirement. But what they state in regards to masks is they just recommend wearing masks for staff. And what
So the
our
temperature
ordinance-
requirement's already required, is what
Right.
you're saying?
Yeah, in his recommendations that are posted on the
Which has
Department
been
of Commerce.
enforceable by.
Right.
Right, I
Okay.
guess my question was this, because we are, specifically emphasizing the mask, and I understand essentially we're trying to make it mandatory versus
Right.
recommended. But it concerns me that businesses, for example, are going to read our ordinance and say, this is all inclusive and and not acknowledge the fact that you're incorporating by reference the RS plan. So I think the temperature aspect with regard to restaurant workers is an important one, so that's why I just wanted to raise that. And,
Well-
I understand it truly is
Well-
redundant. I'm just worried about how it's going to be perceived in the community, and the less ambiguous, as you know, Heather, that it is.
Right, and I was gonna say, it's not as though the law doesn't have a million zillion duplications.
We can certainly add that.
Right,
Why don't we add that? That's a very good point. And that way it's not ambiguous to anybody that reads it. And that's the requirement for Midwest City. So with that being said, I'd
well,
entertain a
if I might,
The
in terms,
wording with
We're gonna need the wording.
workers that are possibly sick with COVID-19 symptoms, fever over 100.4, are required to stay home or be sent home immediately. That's the language you're talking about.
Okay.
well, and Susan, just for clarification, our paragraph 3 in the ordinance addresses the personal care businesses that opened up last Friday, as well as the businesses that are opening up in phase 2, which include dining facilities, the tattoo parlors, the entertainment, the movie theaters, and then also the businesses that are being allowed to resume on May 15th, which include churches and other. Which of those are you wanting to ask that temperature requirement be added to?
My specific concern went to just the restaurant workers,
Okay.
just because I recall that being discussed in the governor's plan specifically. And since they're the ones who are going to be doing food handling and so forth, to me, that's a greater risk of exposure.
Right.
So that's what I was thinking.
We might just want to clarify
Okay,
that
so
in the
Pat, you had the
motion.
language. Do you want to read that language again?
Okay, it's workers that are possibly sick with COVID-19 symptoms, parentheses, fever over 100.4 Fahrenheit, close parentheses, are required to stay home or be sent home immediately. Sarah, I got this right here, if you want to just take it off the sheet.
And that'll be added for the, as it
You
relates to
probably-
restaurants.
You probably can add it where you talk about the mask and then sort, the temperature.
I would, I think, after the end of the sentence that ends in 28, I would insert, all dining facilities shall be required to comply with, and then the verbiage that Pat read, to comply with sending workers who are possibly sick with COVID-19 symptoms, including a fever, home.
Okay.
Sarah, you want this piece of paper, got it on it?
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion with that change.
With that amendment, I move to approve.
With, also with
The gloves.
the gloves.
I thought we took the
Yeah, we
gloves
took
out
the
of it.
gloves have already been
We-
removed.
Yeah, we already took that out.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, move into the public.
We need an emergency.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do need to declare an emergency on this ordinance, and I entertain a motion.
Move to approve on an emergency basis, the ordinance as amended.
I have a motion and a second on the emergency. Any further discussion?
Roll call.
I'm sorry?
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Okay. Miss Sarah, do a roll call.
Yes. Byrne?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Favors?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. I did that on purpose. Okay, now we move into the new business public discussion of our agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I'll call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda. So the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If
Motion
any
to-
item, huh?
She's ready to go home, she's making
Can I finish?
Sure, finish.
Thank you. Do I start over or start where I began?
Start where you stopped
Okay.
off at.
If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Miss Christine,
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Now move into the new business public discussion of our agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. We do have a consent agenda, and once again, these items are placed on the consent agenda, so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We have one discussion item. Mr. Lyon?
We need no action on this item.
No action is needed on discussion item number one. We move into the new business public discussion of the authority. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are adjourned. I now call to order the Midwest City Economic Development Commission. We do have a consent agenda, and once again, these items are placed on consent agenda so that the commissioners can, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all the commissioners or the members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. The chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, any saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. We now move into the new business public discussion of the commission. Does anyone have anything to bring before the commission? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I now call an emergency meeting of the Economic Development Authority. And we do have one discussion item. Mr. Lyons.
Discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution transferring the Midwest City Economic Development Authority trustees' right to approve certain changes to leases by Sooner Town Center LLC and Sooner Town Center 3 LLC to the authority's general manager, the city manager, or his designee.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Is there any other business to bring before the authority? We are hereby adjourned. Thank you for being here this evening, ladies and gentlemen.